Yo everyone, welcome back to the F1 edition of the Sports with Sardaji podcast. Here I host me Pratnala and we have Aniket Mohan back with us today. And we have well, I don't want to fool you guys. We know what we're going to discuss. Max on Saudi, Max is going to win Australia. But let's get going. So Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. We had the race at Jeddah Corniche about 2 weeks ago on a Saturday, as was the case in the first two races of the season to observe Ramadan. And at the front of the pack was the familiar sight of Max zipping away, winning under the race by what, 10, 15, 20 seconds, 13 seconds, 13.6, whatever. Um, and Sergio Perez, who looks to have accepted his role as a number two, not trying to win titles, but just trying to get maximum points for Red Bull. And we saw Max get 20, he didn't get fastest lap, right? I think they went to
Because Charles
Charles.
got it in the end.
Yeah, so basically, we're two races in out of a record breaking 24 race season, and Max has got 51 out of 52 points, right? And nobody expected otherwise. I'm actually surprised Max didn't get fastest lap on 40 laps old hard tires, but well, I think it was just bored and he was probably sim racing in the cockpit also. Who knows? Um,
Probably
but
chilling with
behind,
some music, putting
yeah,
on
I don't
some
know.
Backstreet Boys.
Maybe GP was playing smooth operator for Max instead this time. But behind the top two Red Bull drivers, it was a pretty interesting result. Um, Ferrari again, best of the rest. It was Sainz the first time. It was Leclerc this time, and we had Piastri in fourth, which was very surprising because McLaren was not very confident at the start of the season. Uh, they kind of, gave the impression it's going to be 2023 all over again, but seems to be that no, we're now. McLaren bought some sandbags from Mercedes. Uh, so you saw Piastri in fourth, we saw Alonso in fifth, we saw George Russell in sixth. Oh, by the way, terrible race for Mercedes. Sixth and ninth for Lewis, and we saw the wonder kid from Britain, Ollie Behrman, in seventh. Um, if you remember, he qualified 12th for the race, and he came seventh. And
Yeah,
the rest is kind of a wash. I guess the only other thing was Kevin Magnussen holding up the field behind him. Is that it, Aniket? Was there anything else interesting at Jeddah?
yeah. Firstly, welcome back to the paddock, Pratyush, and I think you covered everything, right? Like we got like the top two, which is going to be probably like the top two for the entire season, and
Yeah.
then we have one of the Ferraris who will probably finish third more or less in this early stages of the season,
Hmm.
and then the others fighting it out for the different spots in the points. So I think the most important takeaway from this race is the debut of Oliver Bierman. So I would again come to the fact that this is was his first Grand Prix, standing in for the injured Carlos Sainz, who not the injured, the just the I would say the guy who basically had surgery, unfortunate
Yeah.
surgery on his appendicitis and appendicitis surgery, and that we wish him a speedy recovery, and we believe that he's back for this race. So they had to
Yeah.
put Oliver Bierman there, a driver who probably not many people in outside of Ferrari had heard about. So he had an incredible performance, as you mentioned. He finishing seventh. He held, I not held up. He convincingly stood his ground against Lando Norris and Lewis behind him, who were chasing him on new softer tires, and he
Right.
didn't put a
Yeah.
foot wrong. In the last stint, which he was on older hard tires. So I think impressive debut, one of the more impressive debuts we've seen over the last couple of years. So I think we had a Great Britain 6, 7, 8, 9 in Formula One, which I guess probably has never happened before. We have four consecutive drivers in the same country finishing in a row.
Right.
That was cool to see. But again, coming back to Berman, I think that was the most impressive, thing in the race where Ferrari could just put in a driver from the academy into their 2024 car, and he performed straight away, which also shows the confidence of the driver in the car. Meaning Ferrari has made decent progress from last season, where a new driver could immediately come in and get
Yeah.
adapted to it so quickly.
And also, this guy just had one practice session. He just did
Mm.
FP3, and he has never raced in an F1 car before.
Yep.
And it's interesting that, I mean, I guess now everybody was probably happy that Ferrari showed trust in him. But, they have other reserve drivers. They have Antonio Giovinazzi and who's the other guy? I forget his name. But, more they have more experienced, reserve
They have.
drivers.
Yep.
Giovinazzi obviously raced for Alfa Romeo and, what were they called before for a long time.
Toro
Uh,
Rosso. Oh, not Toro
yeah,
Rosso. Sorry, Sauber.
Sauber. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
basically, what was the name Sauber picks each year? Uh, F1 Jesus. But it was uh, it was quite interesting that they showed faith in this young guy from Britain, and he
Yep.
repaid them massively, right? Pretty sure made it to Q3 as well, if not for the error at the end, right?
Mm.
Uh,
That's true. And
yeah,
Saudi is not an easy track to make a
exactly.
debut
Yeah,
race in, because
yeah,
it's the middle sector's got a lot of tight corners, as well as
right.
you could easily make a mistake in those high speed sectors, because it's a very high speed track as well. So impressive, considering the fact that, as you said, he only had one practice session to get used to the track as well,
Right.
so,
And it's
in a
also
in an
like
F1 car.
it. I mean, the track is also like it's like this long kind of track with
Yeah.
each side with cane. So it basically has two U-turns as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy, and also a very high speed track. It's a track with the highest average speed on the calendar, with all the sweeping turns. And this
Yep.
guy is racing in F2, where the cars are considerably slower, right? And he was on pole for the F2 weekend. Didn't get to win that race, but well, he raced in F1. But it's a high speed track with all these sweeping high speed turns, and it's a street circuit, so the walls are literally on your face.
Mm.
And this guy just walks in, comes seventh, and just walks off. You're like, no explanation, dude.
Yep. Definitely a driver for the future, I would say.
Yeah,
I mean, he could learn a lot from, say, his countryman coming in next season in Lewis Hamilton. So there's going to be a lot of, young driver and, experienced veteran, teachings,
yeah.
or knowledge sharing going on there. So that'll be exciting to see.
But Aniket, I have a question for you. Do you think he's going to continue being the reserve driver for Ferrari next season, or do you think he's getting a drive next season? Because this end of the season, most of the grid has contracts expiring, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a free for all for next season, mostly except what Lewis, Charles, Max,
Mm.
and Lance Stroll, I guess. Lando, right? I guess these are five drivers that
Yeah.
have contract.
Yeah.
So do you think are we going to see Behrman in, I don't know, Audi? I mean, sorry, it's not Audi yet. Sauber,
Yeah.
Haas, or do you think Toto is going to pull a blinder and get into Mercedes?
I think the Mercedes thing is not going to happen, because Ferrari would not let its driver walk to Mercedes. So I could easily see him in a Haas, because I mean, Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hulkenberg getting older. I don't I don't think they're the right pairing as well for Haas. They definitely would want to have a young driver,
Yeah,
in that team. So
right.
I could see him in Haas next season, replacing one of those. It's hard to say at this point, considering we are just two races in, as to who the driver, who that outgoing driver could be from Haas. But I think Behrman could definitely step in into
Yeah.
that Haas seat. So I would
I
say
think he's going to replace
50-50
Kevin
shot for
Magnussen.
that.
I think if at all, if he gets a seat, he's going to replace Kevin Magnussen because Hulk
Mm-hmm.
is considerably a better driver, right?
Yeah.
Compared to Magnussen.
Mm.
I mean, Magnussen used to be a good driver, but he kind of seems, done now.
Yeah.
But Hulk seems to be still pulling out those races, those points. He got a point again this weekend. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and also Hulk, I guess, would be a very good mentor for, Ollie. And Hulk also has a track record of, coming last minute and, just pulling rabbits out of hats in substituting for other drivers, right?
Super substitute.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so
I think we got on everything from
yeah,
Saudi.
yeah.
Very, very interesting
Jeddah
race.
was, yeah, Jeddah was otherwise uneventful. We had one safety car.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we didn't have more actually. Uh,
Yeah, we didn't have
come
any
on,
incidents. I think it's just surprising
what
for the
is
first
going
two
on this
races,
season?
right?
Everything felt so well behaved, man. Where are my red flags and safety cars?
Everybody
Yeah,
has built a solid. I mean, everybody has a solid engine as well. Like we've not seen any engine
the
blow-ups or
reliability
any
drops.
aerodynamic failures.
Common pit stop issue every week, but then
Yeah, and
and
it's
it's always
making
why
F1
people
less
like
exciting because you have one driver just storming away in the front, and there being no incidents anywhere in the midfield as well.
yeah,
So
yeah, and like the front two drivers are Red Bull, so it's not like the second driver can take out Max either, right? I mean,
yeah, true.
all right. So this weekend we have Australia. We are returning. It's another. I mean, I know it's called a street circuit,
Street
but
circuit.
Albert Park
Yeah.
is a very considered, by F1 fans, a very traditional circuit.
Mm.
It used to be the first race on the calendar for a long time. Long time F1 fans have nostalgia with Australia being the first race in the circuit. Albert Park meant the season started, right?
Yeah.
So, do you think we're going to see a new start this weekend? Or just going to be Max just leaving everybody in the dust?
I would love to see the F1 season start in Australia on Saturday with probably a
Yeah,
different face at the front. That'll be interesting, say a
yeah.
Ferrari or a
That, I
Mercedes
think
or a
it's going
McLaren.
to be the first race, I think either next year or the year after. It's coming back to the front of the calendar.
It's coming back in 2025, so we are looking forward to it being the opener again.
Yeah,
Us long term F1 fans, as you said, consider Australia as the season opener because it's been the season opener for so long. So
yeah.
if we preview this race, obviously, Verstappen is the favorite again because Red Bull is doing so well and the car is in sync with the driver as well at this point. So we go into this race with the same, understanding of who's going to be at the front. But I think Ferrari has shown kind of enough at this point to say that they could be in a shot on a single lap pace with the Red Bull. So maybe Australia is the race where Ferrari kind of unlocks some of its perform more some of more its more performance which is has in reserve. So I would say that's something I would look forward to in terms of Ferrari being better on in this circuit, as well as McLaren being good as well, because they showed us last race that they were very good in the high speed sectors, especially in that middle sector where they always used to pull away from the Mercedes. I mean, Lando used to pull away from Lewis in that. So in Australia as well, the middle sector is pretty high speed. So I think McLaren has a good shot of doing well at this time around too.
Uh, doesn't
So
Australia have 4 DRS zones now?
I'm not sure exactly if it has four zones, but definitely it's got a couple in terms of the first straight as well as one in the middle as well. I think the middle sector as well.
Okay,
So
I'm just checking the track. So there are two
mhm.
detection zones,
Yeah,
but there are 4 DRS zones. So each detection zone has 2 DRS stretches.
okay. So
Yeah,
that means we are
so
in for a long DRS train. We could also be in for a DRS train on this track. So,
right.
oh, yeah. So we could see probably
Or
Magnussen do the role of do the team game again of holding up everyone.
yeah,
So that could happen as well. But I would say we are in for a more interesting race. I think Australia always throws up a lot of events, a lot of red flags, a lot of safety cars as well. So let's hope that there is a change at the front. It's not like somebody needs to take out Max for it to happen, but let's hope that a Ferrari, does miracles or a McLaren does wonders this race.
and if you remember last year, Max
Yeah,
Verstappen won the race, but Lewis was second by
Lewis,
less than
first
two
corner.
tenths.
So
What's
George
that?
and Lewis were 1 and 2 after the first corner.
Yeah, yeah. And Max only won that race by 2 tenths of a second, right? So uh, what's coming to Lewis? You're the in-house Mercedes fan, Aniket. What the hell is going on with them?
I think
They're
it's
supposed
just
they're
a
supposed to change the car completely, and no more zero pods nonsense. They actually have side
yeah.
pods. So what's going on in Mercedes? Why the struggles?
I think we
Saudi
saw
showed the sixth or seventh fastest team on the grid, right?
yeah, I think we saw in the last race, right, where the Mercedes was behind the McLaren and it just could not overtake. It just could not follow in the middle sector. So
Yeah.
whenever Lewis got up to Lando behind the DRS, he was just a little bit far behind to get him on the straight. So, and then once the middle sector started, he was so far back, so it was very difficult to make up that ground. So we can see the obvious problems with that car. It's not handling well, in high speed sectors, and they have to do considerable wing adjustments to get it, get it to a level where it's good on the straights as well. So I would say the changes which has happened has definitely not taken them to the top, or even to competing for podiums. So, and Lewis, is, I would say he's already looking forward to 2025 from a mindset perspective. I mean, to be honest, this scene is going to be probably his one of his worst seasons, unfortunately, because the car is not doing well, and his mind is probably
Yeah.
looking forward to 2025 as well. So I'm not expecting great things from him this race as well, unless the car suddenly improves. And I think George is doing a much better job at this point with the car in terms of keeping it at a respectable position and qualifying, above Lewis as well. So it'll be a tough race for Lewis again. I mean, last year, although we saw last year that the car did well in Mercedes on the track, uh, you
Yep.
know, in the first initial stint, and so on. So they could spring a surprise as well. But it just seems that at this point the car is probably the fourth or fifth fastest, as you said.
But is Lewis beating George this weekend or no?
It's going to be difficult because George has all the momentum, right? He's riding high on the
Yeah.
from the first two races, and he's doing a pretty good job. And I think he's
But
got added motivation, considering
mhm,
that he's going to step into probably the team lead role next season in case a young driver like Kimi Antonelli comes in. So he's got the more kind of he's got the sense of confidence in terms of his driving at this point as well, and how he can
right,
extract performance out of the car. So I think it's going to be neck and neck again between them. It again depends on who qualifies the better, because it does seem that the Mercedes is struggling quite a bit in the race pace at this point. So it depends on the qualifying as well. So if Lewis gets the car up to his liking, he could well eventually out qualify George. But at this point, I would give it to George, to get it in front of Lewis on Saturday.
right. And what do you think? What do you think other teams? Who's finishing the of the points? Who's getting that number 10?
I think before we speak about the other teams, I think we should talk about Carlos Sainz, who could make his return again.
Oh yeah, Carlos, of course.
Yeah, so he was doubtful after the surgery for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and as we saw, he did not make it, and Oliver
Right.
Bowman replaced him. But we are getting news that he could make his return on the track, in Australia.
Yeah.
So seems like a speedy recovery for Carlos indeed. So let's hope to see how he performs, because I'm sure it's not like
Yeah.
the
He's another man with a mission to prove, right? Carlos Sainz. He's been spurred by Ferrari for Lewis,
yeah
and it'll be interesting to see whether how the Charles and Carlos rivalry develops this weekend. Sainz has been the more consistent of that pairing in the last 2 years. I mean,
yeah
Charles has been faster, but he tends to overdrive the car and put it in the wall. But Carlos has been, reliability issues aside, Carlos has been the more successful driver. He was also the only guy who won the race not won by Red Bull last season at Singapore, where you are.
yeah.
Uh, should have gone that race. You're seeing someone other than Max winning.
I saw Checo
But
winning in 2022, but
yeah, that was still Red Bull though. So
But
Charles
but
versus
I think
Carlos.
Carlos and Charles
Big
definitely will have, as you said, will resume their rivalry this season. And we still wait to see where Carlos is going to drive next season, because for me, I thought that the news would be out by now. So it does seem like it's going to take some time to see where Carlos will drive next season.
Yeah, I
So,
think teams are going to be in a holding pattern till summer break to start making decisions. Because it's still very early in the season, right? We just had 2 races.
yep, it's very early, and plus we have the whole Red Bull circus going on, and teams are
Oh
waiting to
yes.
see if Max should be available. So we have
Yeah.
that also on the horizon. So yeah, till that time, I'm definitely looking forward to see Carlos, being Carlos and driving that without any, I would say, without any, pressure on him, because it does seem like he's more relaxed. He has got nothing to lose, so He's definitely a
Yeah,
wanted man on the grid, and he could probably choose between a few teams as to where he does want to land.
right. So before we move on from the Australia onto the silly season madness,
Hmm.
who else do you think is a dark horse this weekend? Is Alonso going to have a good race again? Somebody else? Is Alpine going to pull a rabbit out of its hat?
I wouldn't think Alpine is going to do that
Logan
anytime
Sargent
soon.
place.
I could see Alex Albon doing well probably in the Williams. I think the Williams has definitely made a step forward this season. So I would say Alex Albon could be due for something good this this race. We also have to talk about the home crowd
Yeah.
guys in terms of the home heroes in Oscar Piastri, Ricardo. I don't know if you consider Valtteri Bottas as a home guy, so I don't know. So I'm definitely looking forward to Oscar and Daniel because Oscar did well in the last race while Daniel did not. Daniel is not having the best start to the season, so it'll be interesting to see whether the crowd spurs him on to do well
Yeah.
this race because he is on the horizon for the Red Bull seat as well in case they don't re-sign Perez and say if Max also leaves.
Coming to that, Daniel Ricciardo can't even beat Yuki Tsunoda right now,
Yeah,
and nobody rates Yuki Tsunoda that highly either. So, and we know how Red Bull likes to, end driver contracts mid-season. So, is Ricardo quick answer? Is Ricardo lasting to the end of the season, or are you going to see Liam Lawson come back?
it'll be ironic to see Ricardo like not lasting and him being one of the favorites for the Red Bull seat and then suddenly he doesn't last the season with the B team as well. So that'll be crazy to see happen. So I think he will definitely try to pick up his form, starting with this race
Yeah,
because I mean it's better to do it in front of your home fans than to not, right? It's better to finish probably in the points, put on a good showing than finishing being a teammate again, as well as sulking, which we have seen from Ricardo in the last few races. So that'll be interesting to see. I think Oscar will definitely have a good race. McLaren is doing well, so I can predict another top five for Oscar at this point. So let's look out for Oscar. And obviously, if you can never count out the young man Fernando Alonso, right? He's definitely going to be there and thereabouts in the points.
right. Okay, and before we wrap up, I just want to talk about the paddock stories going on. So, in the last, close to what 10 days, right? 10 days it's been since Saudi. So, the last 10 days, we have seen some crazy things happen on the paddock,
Yeah,
Aniket. We have seen Red Bull fire their the lady who brought forth the allegations upon Christian Horner. We have seen the political struggle intensify through the media that Horner and Marco don't see eye to eye and all that. We also heard about a meeting at the factory where they tried to present a united front and calm down the troops.
yeah.
We saw Let's talk to F1.com today saying he's happy where he is at Red Bull and that he's not going anywhere. We also see reports said that Max to Mercedes is basically a done deal. Sorry, George. Um, and we also see reports that Adrian Newey to Ferrari is almost a done deal, and that
Yeah.
Ferrari is blank check. What the hell is going on, Aniket? You have 30 seconds. What are your 2025 predictions
Oh,
of Christian and Adrian?
I think it's too much to keep up, right? It's like there's so much more to keep up outside of F1 than inside on the track. So I would say like, okay, let's come to the first news. It was the woman who was getting fired from the Red Bull staff and so on. So I think that was like kind of a little like childish from Christian Horner in terms of you're actually firing the person who complained against you, kind of a
Yeah, but do you
workplace
actually think
malpractice, I would
anything
say.
else? Another.
So I think he did like the safest job he could in terms of getting the woman rid. But I would think that there's more to come in that. So that's not the end of the allegations at that point. So that is going to be interesting to see where it goes. And then if we come to the whole United Red Bull front in terms of them, holding fort and so on. So I think there's a lot of political turmoil in that team at this point because there are two sides of the coin in terms of one side holding a 50% majority share, 50% share, and the other side holding another 50%. So there's a lot of power struggle there as well in terms of one side backing Honor and one side backing Marco and so on. So I think that there's a lot of newspaper reports on that as well in terms of, as you said, Hona and Marco not seeing eye to eye and Verstappen being in Marco's camp, and then
Yep.
the whole if Marco leaves and Verstappen also leaves and so on. So I think that those two stories are definitely not going to end anytime soon, unless Marco himself comes out and says that okay, this is put to bed, because it does seem that he's got a rule. He's kind of the ruler on the driver lineups at Red Bull at this point. So
Right.
uh, I think that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out till the F1 summer break, definitely. And in terms of the driver movements, we saw that Max, as you said, came out and rubbished any reports of him leaving Red Bull.
Yeah.
But then we saw another story from Johnny Herbert saying Max to Mercedes
Yeah.
is a done deal.
Done deal.
So
Yeah.
a done deal, I don't think so, because I don't know if Johnny Herbert is the most reliable of sources. So
That's true. But we also saw similar in German media reporting,
Lewis,
Adrian to
Adrian to
Ferrari's
Ferrari as well. So
Ferrari's giving a
I,
blank check, I don't know, $1 billion, I guess.
yeah, it's definitely like an interesting thing to keep a watch for, because what happens in the next few races will definitely determine what happens with the Red Bull team.
Right.
It's difficult to think of Max leaving such a good situation, right? He's going to win probably 5 championships by the end of next year. So
Right.
why does he want to leave that team? I mean, is it because of Honor? Is it because of some Red Bull management issues?
Yeah.
Or maybe Honor gets fired? Who knows? There was a report on that as well last
Right.
week.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. There's
as I
also the
said,
report
too
that
much
the
to
Thai
talk
family
about.
is losing their patience, right? There's also the report that Thai family is losing their patience and they want, their support for Horner might be waning. And if their support is gone, Horner is a dead guy, right?
Yeah,
Because
we
that's the
also
only thing keeping alive right now.
We also heard reports about Ford, who's going to be the engine supplier for Red Bull in
Right.
2026. Say they're unhappy
Yeah.
with the situation.
Right.
So there has to be some lines drawn there as well, in terms of Red Bull satisfying whatever Ford wants, them to satisfy before, in case Ford does not like what's happening and they break off any deal. Then that puts Red Bull in a difficult spot. So this is going to end one way or the other. Either
Yep.
everyone is going to be one happy family, or some or the other person leaves that team. So we just have to wait and watch at this point. Uh, and yeah, there are
So I
more,
think
as you said, more things to discuss off track than on track, which speaks volumes
yeah.
about F1 at this point.
So quick, I want two predictions before we wrap up. The first thing is one, two, three for this weekend. And before that, since you're talking about Red Bull, I want you to predict. Please be generous with your hot takes. Where will Max, Christian, and Adrian be in 2025?
Oh my, you put me on the spot. Okay, I'd like to hear yours as well before we end the spot. So, top three for this race. Oh, okay, let's go with one from Red Bull. Say, I think Checo, because I don't want Max to win another race. So, Checo wins. I think Charles finishes second and Max finishes third. So, that's my
Okay.
top three for this race. And in terms of next season, okay, my hot take is, I'll listen to Johnny Herbert for once and say Max joins Mercedes. Out of all bombshells, we get this biggest bombshell. So, I mean, the day we're going to get this bombshell, we're going to be live on this channel for everyone, to get our views
Yeah.
on. So, we'll see if that happens actually. So, if that's my hot take, then so let it be, I would say. So, Max goes to Mercedes, Adrian Newey goes to Ferrari, and Horner stays at Red Bull. So, that's going to be my prediction.
Okay. And here's mine before we wrap up.
Yep.
I think this weekend we're going to see. I don't know, man. I have no hopes for the season. So I think it's going to be Max, Checo, and I guess Carlos is going to come back because he wants to switch. But for next season, I think we're going to see Max and Mercedes,
Wow.
Adrian Ferrari, and Honda's going to be fired.
Yeah.
But Red Bull, but Red Bull is too late to fire him, so they lost both the guys anyway.
Yeah, I know, right? And the end of the day, everyone is going to be one happy family at Red Bull, and they're going to win another championship next season.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's probably what's going to happen, right?
That's going to be the story,
It's too
unfortunately.
expensive to give up. I don't know, unless Red Bull does what Ferrari did in 2007. But we'll see.
Yep, yep.
All right, guys, that was your
A
preview
quick
for
fire preview, review, and
yeah,
the paddock gossip.
right. And we'll see you again after Australia. So see you, everybody.
See you there in the next one. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye.